Video from my April 11th, 2015 dive to the Olympic 2, Ellie, and Eureka oil rigs. The captain missed the Olympic 2 by about 75 feet. I had heard that it was off of about a 15-degree bearing, and so I swam that direction and ran a reel. The rest of the boat followed on my reel. Here's JP and what's left of the stern. This is one of the few erect structures that remain. Here's the other side of the stern. You can see just how much it's listing and how covered in little anemones that it is. I've been on this wreck now probably a half a dozen times, and I'm always finding something new. Like this. This is a Peltodorus nobilis. As usual, it was a JP find. This was a small snail that I found that I thought was very beautiful. It was golden in color. This is another little nudibranch. I'm not quite sure what variety it is. I believe this is a Hermescena cassicornis. It was maybe a quarter of an inch long, so it was really hard to film. I'm using my Macromate Mini on my GoPro for these shots. We then moved to the Eureka rig. I wanted to get a practice deep dive in, so X and I went down to 150 feet for 15 minutes. We planned the dive, and as you can see from the profile, we followed it quite well. I was really surprised by what I found when I got down there. I had heard that there were large scallops below the second set of crossbeams, but it turns out it's basically barren. There's some large white Metridium anemones, as you can see. I see them all the time in San Diego on the Yukon. But in terms of scallops, there's a couple. They're small. It's almost like the shallow areas that have been stripped off by the companies. The visibility actually cleared up down here. It was the worst viz I've had on the rigs, but that's a third set of crossbeams that must have been in about 220 maybe. It was really, really murky for the first 20, maybe 30 feet, and there was a bit of a gradient that cleared as you went down. There was another person on the boat who actually went down to 300 feet, and he said that the large bait balls that we're used to seeing on this rig were actually down in the 300-foot range. It was quite dark at 150. I can only imagine it must have been pitch black at 300. Here's the second crossbeams. You can actually see sort of a line. Here's the bottom of it. This is about 120. You'll see me check my petrol in a second. But on the bottom, there's no scallops. And then there's a line, and then there's a bunch of scallops up top. My theory is that there's not a lot of current down low, so there's not a lot of nutrients for the scallops to grow. What might have been the highlight of the trip was right here. I know it's a little bit blurry, but these are actually 3 very large mola that were sunning themselves. People have various theories as to why they do this. Some folks think that it's them presenting themselves to birds to get rid of parasites. Others think that it's them warming their bodies. That way when they do a deep dive, they've got enough warmth to sustain them. This is either the Ellie or the Ellen. What surprised me was that the Garibaldi are breeding again. I didn't realize that it was that season. You can see the little red algae patch that the males cultivate, and this one's swimming in circles around what I believe to be a patch of their eggs. It's either a patch of eggs or wigglers. It's the little protrusions that you can see wave as he comes over and fans them. I know in freshwater this is to give the babies more oxygen.